Hello and welcome to Legacy Curious. I'm your host, David Gravelle. Today I'm happy to welcome Sara Orellana, a powerhouse leader, coach, and writer with over 19 years of experience in business management, coaching, and leadership. With a bachelor's degree in English from Rutgers University, a master's of science in social and community services from Capella University, and a master's of public health from Kaplan University with a focus in epidemiology. Sara brings a wealth of knowledge to Three Raptor Consulting. As if that wasn't enough, she's also a graduate of the Standards of Excellence for Nonprofit Management and has completed a nonprofit management certification course from the Oklahoma Center of Nonprofits. At the heart of Sara's approach is the belief that a good team is one that is built upon strengths and skills, and this is something she's committed to practicing through exemplary communication skills. Her experience doesn't stop at business management and leadership, however. Sara is also a skilled public speaker and negotiator with a talent for speech writing. Her bilingual abilities round out her impressive skill set as she's interpreted in many professional settings. In short, Sara is the real deal, and we're proud to have her as a guest today. Right, so today I want to welcome our guest and say hello to Sara. How are you, Sara?
I'm great. How are you, David?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining us today. And I want to say your name right so you can share your last name with our audience.
Yes, it's Oriana.
Oriana. Okay, great. Thank you, Sara. So again, welcome to the show. When I start asking our guests about themselves, I want to start with, your origin story. Where did you
Sure.
grow up, and what was your family life like when you were a young person?
Sure. I had a pretty unique childhood. My dad is from Mexico. He immigrated in the 70s. And he actually met my mom because his parents lived across the street from her parents. So they saw each other from across the street. And she dated his younger brother before she dated him and ended up married to him. I was born in Southern California and I did high school in Southern California, but I did middle school and college in New Jersey. So for me, both New Jersey and California are home, and I
Both
very much
coasts.
call
Yeah.
both of them home. I did a short stint in Pennsylvania, a short stint in Mexico City, and then some time in Oklahoma. Sounds like a jail record. I should have said that better. But we circled the country twice because of my dad's work. He was a data programmer for banking systems, and it just took us around a lot, and even took us international for a bit.
Yeah, I know all about that. I worked for some banks in Bermuda when I was a younger person. So yeah, and my father-in-law is a retired bank executive here in Oklahoma City with Bank First. So yeah, very familiar with that. So what was your experience like in school? What did you study? What were the courses that you found yourself enjoying and being attracted to?
I should say I'm an only child, and because we moved so much, my parents had me in Catholic schools from first grade through seventh grade. So my education remained pretty consistent, even though we moved so often. The classes that I was drawn most to were English and history. I loved studying people. I loved learning about people. I love stories. I love to tell stories. I love to read. And so those were the classes I was always drawn to. Math, I always laugh. Math is my weakest subject, but math, like algebra, college level, if it's just your day-to-day math, like budgets, percentages, fractions, I am incredible at that.
Yeah.
But my poor daughter, when she took college algebra, I just was like, God bless, let me sit next to you, but that's about all I can do to help.
Yeah. And most of the people that I know that are readers, they also write. Did you write at all? Were you creative?
Yeah. So actually I do write. So I had a blog for about 2.5 years. I wrote for two magazines and four papers for about 5 years. And then right at the end of the pandemic, I published a book.
Okay.
And now I still do blogs. They're not creative blogs, they're professional blogs, but I am looking into getting back into creative blogs. I have some ideas I want to do, like some serial stories, like, when Charles Dickens was published, they would do a chapter at a time. I
Yes,
want to do something
right.
like that. I also work with a writing mentor right now, and I just completed a pilot for a TV show that
Oh,
she has
exciting.
entered into some competitions, and now she's teaching me how to write movies. So I'm
Oh.
always learning something new in the creative writing world.
Yeah, well, I want you to talk more about that. I'm raising two kids in the arts, and I'm just fascinated because it's not me. I'm a very analytical. I love math, and I like my ones and
Great.
zeros. I'm very drawn to technology. So, what's that process like? What inspires you? Maybe tell me a bit about your book, and can people
Great.
get it? Where would they look for that?
Oh, sure. So, my book is very boring. It's How to Grow, Start, and Maintain Nonprofits, and it's available on Amazon. And it has lots of highlights and lessons from my time as a CEO. Because I was a CEO that you brought in for turnarounds and failures. So I've had a lot of unique experiences, like working with the Department of Labor, going through IRS audits, going through tax audits because of previous directors.
All the fun
So I
stuff.
share a lot of stories and lessons learned there, and then just a lot of tips and tricks that I learned. So I should disclose I have severe ADHD. So because of that, I'm always looking for ways to make things as simple as possible. So over the course of my career, I've developed all these tools. And so I share those on my blog, I
Okay.
share those on my website, and I share them in my book of just ways that I manage large amounts of information in ways that make sense to my ADHD. Um, but I love storytelling. And so when my daughter was little, we would make up stories. We would just tell stories all the time. Now, I have two dogs, and one of them, like me, likes to be outside all the time. And so we spent all whenever I'm out walking Selena, I tell myself stories. And so anything can inspire me. It's life, it's moments, it's observations. And I just get a story going in my head and tell myself the whole story, which I understand is kind of common with people with ADHD. We can just live up here.
Okay, good. Okay. And so that's kind of what inspires you then is that, your brain's always, being active and wanting
Yes.
to, yeah, is wanting to have that constant flow and stream of, consciousness, let's say. Okay. And,
Yes.
and so how does that manifest in your work life? Like, tell us about your company that you started, Three
Sure.
Raptor Consulting,
Um,
and what your mission is and what brought you to do that.
sure. So in 2018, after working, I started out in nonprofits and programming. I just kind of fell into the work and I worked my way up to CEO. And along the way, I learned how to do grant writing. And I was always multiple positions like HR, finance, grant writing, and I loved the work that I did. But I got to a point where I love the mission, I love the work, and I love making the world better for other people. But it got to a place where I was managing counselors in a mental health facility, and they wanted special privileges, and they would say things to me like, "Well, because I work for a nonprofit, I should get this." And in my heart, I think you work for a nonprofit because you get to see somebody smile. You get to make somebody's day. You get to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the board was there just to check a box or for an ego. And so that just really burned me out. And I didn't like the way it was changing me internally. I didn't like how it was making me bitter. And I was very aware of that. And also at the same time, my daughter was in eighth grade, getting ready to go to high school. And I was tired of working 80 hours a week for somebody else. So I had a long conversation with her. And she was like, Mom, I'll give up anything just to have you home more with me. And so that's when I started my company. And it was to have a flexible schedule, to be a more active mom, but then also to be able to empower professionals with the tools they need to achieve their dreams and being able to work for the joy of working and not dealing with egos. And so this May, actually next month, I guess May 8th, will be our 7-year
Well,
anniversary. And it's a
congratulations.
huge milestone.
Yeah.
We forget to celebrate it all the time. But I told my daughter this year we have to celebrate it. So I'm hoping we at least remember to go out to dinner. But it was very momentous when I filed with the Secretary of State. I took my daughter with me and I've had her with me every step of the way. And I've shared all the lessons I've learned with her. And I think that was one of the best decisions I could make as a parent because she's seen me fail. She's seen me have to pivot. She's seen me succeed. And now she's 21 and she is so grounded. We laugh because she's almost more of an adult than I am at times, very responsible, very focused, knows what she wants, and has
Yeah.
a very good work ethic. That I think that was one of the best decisions I ever could make was just letting her grow up, seeing all these things happen.
Yeah. So, Sarah, I know a little bit about your work, and from my understanding, it's helping nonprofits with writing grants. Maybe you could speak to a bit more about kind of the services that you provide for them, specifically how you help them, and maybe some of the results you're able to glean from that.
So I think honestly, I'm really lucky to get to do the work that I do, because I get to work with probably about 12 different nonprofits on a regular basis and be included as part of their team, which is really heartwarming when they say, hey, you're a part of our team. But I've been able to help raise money to help a school that works with children who are born deaf or hard of hearing. And knowing that I'm helping them, like for instance, I got this grant for them to develop an entire music program, and knowing that I'm helping little babies develop music skills, that's amazing. I got a thank you card that made a little acorn, with a handprint on it. It was the
Yeah.
best moment. I saved that. I work with a couple nonprofits that work with disabled adults and individuals with disabilities. And right now we're working on getting them building I guess like residential houses so they can live independently, and thinking I get to help somebody live independently who wants that. And we're working on designing a swim program. And so basically, now that I've gotten excited, what I do is I come into the nonprofit and I kind of assess where they are. And I make a lot of recommendations like, okay, I see that you have these foundational documents. That's great. Or, hey, let's back it up. Let's pause on the grant writing and let's build a really strong foundation. And so I help them get all of those things together. I have one nonprofit that I'm working with to help them develop their board and how to attract a board and how to get a good, healthy board. We talk a lot about how to report and creating documents to share with foundations, how to do meetings. And so we do that, and we do a lot of program design, which program design is my favorite. And then we do just consulting in general. I went through one client where they actually had to fire their executive director, helping them manage that, get everything back going, and merge with another nonprofit, and then stay on as their grant writer.
Wow.
So that's what we do. I also work with a lot of professionals who want to change careers, and I help them write more of a results-driven resume and coach them on how to approach interviewing and write cover letters. And then we work with smaller businesses and solopreneurs to help them do what I call succession planning, which I think is, you call it something different. I call it succession planning. Is when you help them create, basically, I call it the Bible. So anybody could come in and run their business. We do a lot of strategic planning. In fact, I helped a music producer do strategic planning where he was able to hire an assistant and expand nationally. So I've worked with just all kinds of really cool people. And then budgeting, that's actually one of my strong points. I used to teach budgeting for the SBA and SBDC. And then capability statements, affirmative action statements, employee handbooks. We really can do just about anything you need and help you create simple processes, because I'm all about keeping things simple.
Okay, great. And where can people find you, Sarah? How they get in touch with you?
So we're in the process of developing our social media. So right now, the best way to get a hold of us is through our website, 3raptorconsulting.com. You can contact us through the website. My daughter, who works for me, actually manages all those messages and responds to you same day.
Okay, great. We'll have it in the description, so everybody watching this, you'll be able to see that. And okay, so now for the $1 million question, Sarah, what do you want your legacy to be? What is it that you hope to be remembered for, and that you want to make sure is in place?
So I've given this a lot of thought on a lot of dog walks, and I will be honest, I personally don't really want to be remembered. I'm not one who wants to be the center of attention. But if I was to leave a legacy, what I want is for people to understand that you can do what you need to do where you are to make the world a better place, right? So do what you can where you are, do the best that you can, and always leave the world a better place. Like, I have 2 rescue dogs. I will always rescue dogs. At the same time, while I can only home to rescue dogs, I've taken others in and helped them find homes or get healthy to find homes. So do what you can. Donate to the food pantry when you can. We've made lots of donations there. We take all of our clothes to Goodwill. So do what you can where you can, and that will cause a ripple effect, very similar to the public health effect, where it'll just create that positivity and that power of moving forward and passing it on to others. And so that's truly the legacy that I want to leave, is just people to understand how easy it is to make the world a better place.
Well, thanks for sharing that with our audience, and hopefully, for the right people, they'll hear that and go out and act on that. I personally will look for new opportunities to do that, and again, just remind myself of that simple messaging. So thanks again for sharing, and thanks for joining us today, Sarah. We may have you back on in the future to speak to some other topics. And, but for today, I just want to, again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Again, appreciate you being here, and we'll talk to you again soon, I'm sure.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that concludes another episode of Legacy Curious, and we thank Sara for joining us and sharing her legacy with you, our audience. Once again, if you or someone you know would like help preparing their legacy or like to be a guest on our show, contact us at legacycurious@gmail.com. As always, I'm your host, David Gravelle. Everyone has a story. Let's make sure yours is heard and remembered.